In the back of my mind, I had this idea back in December, and I was like, yeah, this would be a great way to kick off January streams, and then nothing happened in January, oopsie. But what I want to do is I want to take every single game that I played in 2020, some on stream. I'm gonna try to fly through them. Yeah, so this is the big smorgasbord, 45 total. Will this be spoiler heavy with the list? No, for the most part, I don't think it will be. If I do want to mention spoilers, I'll definitely mention them. But I mean, keep in mind too, I haven't been half of the games on here. I've been less than half of the games on here, so I wouldn't even be capable of doing a lot of spoiler talk, even if I wanted to. But if that does come up, I will give a warning, and we'll have some kind of on-screen designator marker for it, right? Or I'll try to remember at least. All right, so we have our list here. All right, I think 5 tiers is enough. If we try to break it down, I think S tier for me. It doesn't necessarily have to be a masterpiece. It doesn't even necessarily have to be a game on my top 25 of all time, but it has to be a game that has the potential to hit my list for sure. It has to be a game that, I think the difference between an A and an S tier is an A is a game that I think is fucking phenomenal, a great time, and I probably won't ever really revisit. Or if I do, it'll just kind of be whatever from through somebody else, or you know, it probably won't be the same extent an S tier game would, where as I'm playing it, I'm hyper fixating. It is fucking grabbed me with a chokehold and refused to let go until I've beaten it. And then weeks, if not months after I'm done beating the game, I'm still thinking about it on a daily basis. There are a lot of games that fit this that do not fit this, and that's gonna be the biggest difference between them. But both of them are gonna be these are phenomenal games. I cannot recommend them enough to anybody. Is gonna be the vibe. B is gonna just be really good time. I really enjoyed my time with it. I think there's gonna be a lot of games too that I haven't finished. I think a majority of the games that I have finished are probably gonna be an S and A, if we're gonna be real, because usually that's what it takes for me to really see through a game and complete it. B is still gonna be yeah, I had a lot of fun with this game. Maybe it wasn't enough to super fucking grip me, but I can still recommend it heartily. C is gonna be kind of middling. It's gonna be, which is crazy because it's not actually the middle, but C tier is just gonna be it was good. I don't know, not for me, or I could probably do better, but I didn't have a bad time. It's just gonna be the meh, as fucking irate as I get whenever somebody says meh. Ugh, blah, blah. It kind of is the meh territory. Not bad, but not really that good, right? And then D is just fucking ew. So right off rip, obviously, I mean, this just makes sense. I mean, this just makes sense. Ew, yeah, ew. Cool potato in my video game? I think not. But no, obviously, so let's just get this one out. Obviously, Definitive Edition is the easiest S tier in the world. Obviously it's not. I'm also gonna try to, I guess, give a little disclaimer too. I am going to try to rank these within the tier. It might not be perfect, and there might be right at the end, I'll probably do a lot of rearranging last second to try to really finalize my thoughts. But obviously S, obviously going very high up in the list, right? D tier is if you like that game, not only should you be banned in chat, but you're just objectively a bad person. Jesus Christ himself, Saint Peter, spitting in your eye as they curb stomp you down the heck and below. All right, that's D tier. All right, boys. Okay, so Clubhouse 51 Games, very solid board game compilation. Genuinely, if you want a fun and easy way to play on the Switch with your friends, and you want a ton of variety with board games and stuff to play alongside them, really fun time. A lot of them are really well made. A lot of them have a lot of great tutorials for learning brand new games. The only issue I had with Clubhouse 51 Games is when I first got it, I got it for my sister, and that was really my first time playing it. I played it a bunch with her and my dad over Christmas. The only issue I have with this game is I feel like it takes forever to get to the point where you can just play all the games. Yeah, I feel like I spent an hour at the beginning where it really wants to walk you through the individual groups of games, and I was just mashing. I felt like Aaron Hansen for the first goddamn time in my life, because it fucking just won't let you play them all out on rip. You have to trickle them, unlock them, and I think that's so dumb and dog shit and stupid. The actual games themselves, fantastic, but the plug and play aspect, which I thought I was getting, kind of sucks if I'm gonna be real. Still though, solidly made, fun time. Obviously it's not gonna break my mind. So it's gonna be like bottom of B, right? Because it's not C. I mean, they're all very well made iterations, like very satisfying sound design, great visuals for like the simplicity of board games and whatnot. But that intro, man, that shoots it straight down to the bottom of B. Fuck off with that. Just let me play them, man. Animal Crossing, New Horizons. Really great time. Very fun. Got a lot of us through quarantine. Obviously, the sound design is like next level. Love the soundtrack to pieces. Visuals are fucking beautiful in their simplicity on Switch. I think myself and many others have drastically fallen off of it. I have not booted it up since like late April at most. And even that, I feel like that's being pretty generous with like how long it took me. I mean, it's such a solid package, but also kind of sucks because there's so much that was missing from the game compared to New Leaf, or even compared to like Pocket Camp, which has some god tier holiday events, and then you see Valentine's Day for New Horizons, and you get like 4 things in the mail that you can order, and that's it. Pocket Camp has like 80 different crazy cool unique furniture sets and goddamn actual like minigame events, and I don't know. I really enjoyed Animal Crossing. It was a fun time. I think I did overall think New Leaf was the better entry in the series. However, hey, if they actually do keep adding stuff to New Horizons, it could climb up, right? It could give us reasons to go back. But like as is, I think they introduced a lot of cool ideas, right? I think the terraforming was neat, and being able to kind of seamlessly hang out with friends on their islands and stuff was really fun and cool, even if it did take like 7 years for the loading to finally go through and like let people do their thing. But yeah, overall, I feel like the biggest issue that New Horizons has is that there's other games in the series that have made, at least in my opinion, stronger impressions. Yeah, I honestly feel like New Leaf is kind of more of a cohesive package than New Horizons, but hey, it's still gonna get patched and updated, so we'll see how it goes, right? Astro's Playroom. First game I booted up on my PS5. Also one of the only actual PS5 games I've played. I have played a couple PS4 games on my PS5, but it's one of the only actual PS5 ones I played. Really fun time. An amazing showcase of the controller. Incredible sound design. Especially it like uses the DualSense in really cool ways with its speaker, like in tandem with the in-game sounds and stuff, and then you combine that with the haptic feedback and the triggers with all the different minigames and stuff in it, and it's really cool. It's so packed from tip to toe with charm in like every single corner, between all the cameos that all the different PlayStation properties make that are like acted out by the Astro bots, and all the callbacks to old PlayStation peripherals and consoles that are like beautifully rendered that you can play around with as like a sort of jungle gym thing and like a bonus area. It's a really fun game too. Like it handles very well. It's like a very fun platformer that I never want to play again. That I will, on Jesus Bobibum, never boot up again. I beat it, I had a lot of fun with it, and it will never, and then I immediately uninstalled because I have like zero reason to ever play it again. And aside from maybe getting an easy platinum, I think getting the platinum in Astros is probably very easy. But aside from that, yeah, I probably won't. It was still a fun time though, and I think it's a great first impression for the PS5. It does do a very good job of showcasing the DualSense. So that's, I think, like a higher B, honestly. I do recommend, if you have a PS5, you literally have no reason to at least try it out. It's a really cool showcase. It's a really fun time, honestly. I don't think anybody's gonna be surprised about the Hades placement. I'm gonna keep it real, gonna keep it a buck. Hades, there are a few games on here. Hades, Sekiro, Xenoblade. Well, I already got Xenoblade. I don't know, Future Connect is gonna be an iffy one, right? Like Journey, 7 Remake, DMC5, Bloodborne. We know where they're going. Speaking of which, Bloodborne, come on. Come on, dude. Come on, Bloodborne, fucking incredible. A masterpiece in every regard. Easily hit my top 10 games of all time, and actually I thought it was my favorite FromSoft game until we played Sekiro. And then turns out, no, actually Sekiro is definitely my #1 favorite FromSoft game. Actually, I do think Sekiro has gotten to the point where it's now in my top 5 favorite games of all time. But both of them are easily some of the greatest games to come from like last gen. They both have like a little bit of a higher barrier, like entry point for people to get into. But I think if you give them the time of your day to adapt to like what FromSoft expects from you, and you just like make an effort to try to learn more about the lore and really get immersed in the world, you'll find some of the most engaging and fucking blood pumping, adrenaline soaked experiences of your life. Truly like one of a kind gems, the kind of game where I'm like sobbing when the credits roll because I know that I'll never get to have a first experience like that again. right? I'll never be able to just erase my memories of that game and experience it the way that I did, because it is that good. Fucking loved it. Bugsnax. I was actually very surprised. I'll be real, going into Bugsnax, I really didn't expect a lot out of it. I thought it was gonna be, I don't know, another weird Octodad thing where like it's very cute and quirky, but there's gonna be, I don't know, like a weird control scheme or something that is fun for like an hour and then just gets kind of annoying, which was my experience with Octodad. Like Octodad was just very mid for me because I thought the story and the presentation was very cute. The genre of games where like the controls are really clunky on purpose, and there's like fun hijinks that come out of that, like Octodad or Surgeon Simulator, right? That genre of games, that's just not really for me. I feel like part of the reason why I came into Bugsnax thinking I was just gonna be kind of like, whatever about it, is I feel like they didn't really show much gameplay. I feel like going into it, the most that we saw was like the weird cryptic music video, the Bugsnax song, and then there was like the found footage trailer. It was like Blair Witch Project. Right, I think there was a lot of intrigue to Bugsnax. I had no idea what I was getting myself into because I feel like they didn't show any gameplay. Turns out it's like a first-person puzzle adventure, wide linear, like actually extremely well-acted, engaging adventure game. It's good. It's like really good. Like I remember it was me and James. I installed it on a whim because it was like free for PlayStation Plus for PS5, and I was like, fuck, it's like 7 gigs. What do I gotta lose? And then we booted it up, and I was like, holy shit, Bugsnax is actually good. Yeah, it was a huge surprise. It might have been one of the biggest surprises of the year, which is crazy because I played it in like December or November or whatever. Like right at the tail end of the year, and I was actually really blown away by how good Bugsnax is. Granted, I actually haven't beaten it, but we played a decent amount of it. Bunger is like an American hero. Bunger is everything that I could ever hope to be in a man, so honestly, I would say Bugsnax is like a low A for me. It wasn't enough for me to like see through to the end because I just got distracted by other things, but I would love to go back and play through it because it is a genuinely very well-made game. Cuphead was really fun. Really enjoyed the playthrough that me and James did. God, I mean, it's such a step above so many other indies in terms of like the polish, the presentation, right? The whole shebang. And it's crazy because the whole like Metal Slug, arcade, shoot 'em up genre, I enjoy, but it's never been like my big forte, right? Like I'm an action RPG, action adventure, 3D platformer, Andy. Those are my big 3, right? Action shooter is like enjoyable, but it's not my big priority with like the stuff that I really vibe with. But Cuphead was a strong dissenting force in that matter. I loved it to pieces. It's another one that like I'm probably not going to replay it if I'm gonna be perfectly honest, but it's such a phenomenal game. It's one that you gotta experience at least once in some way. Even if you watch a playthrough or whatever, like it just does so much more than so many other games in the market currently. And I feel like the only way it's gonna get surpassed is like when they release their next game. Everything they touch, I think it's gonna be golden. It's like one of those studios, it's kind of like Supergiant in a way, right? Like such a strong first showcase. I have no doubt that like everything that they put out from here on out is gonna be super juicy. Let's go down to the dog shit there. D for dog shit. I hate saying this because I know James really loved the game and like still really enjoyed his time with it. Trials of Mana was one of the most like underwhelming experiences of last year. Trials of Mana, don't even get me started. I didn't even pick Charlotte. I'm so glad that James did. And I thank God every day that I didn't pick Charlotte, if we're gonna be perfectly honest here. So Trials of Mana was the 3D remake of the SNES game that never got localized here, Seiken Densetsu 3 or whatever. I'm gonna keep it a buck. I think the Mana series as a whole is just not for me. I don't know what it is, man. I feel like to really enjoy the Mana series, you had to have grown up with them. I think there needs to be like a strong nostalgic bias for them. But we played the SNES one too. And then I've played Trials of Mana 3D, really going into it thinking, oh, maybe it's gonna fix a lot of the stuff, a lot of the issues that I had with the SNES version, but I don't know. It's so mid. The voice acting is not good. I feel like this music's too triumphant. That's fine. And it's not even that like the actors in Trials of Mana are bad. I think a lot of them are very good, and even the main cast are like pretty decent for the most part. I think the issue is really the direction. The direction and the localization for this game is not good. There's so many scenes where characters in the game have to talk like this because there'll be like maybe 10 words for them to say, but then the characters are lip flapping on screen for like 15 seconds. And so they have to stretch out this tiny, very poorly localized script to cover these huge stretches of dialogue that just don't exist because they didn't write enough for them. And it's such a consistent issue that it baffles my mind that like there wasn't any tweaking or anything going on to try to like remedy this. There is some voice acting that is so bad it's good, so like funny that it actually does kind of make up for it. There's like one, it's like I think it's the Dark Spirit that you unlock. He's so cheesy. He's so honky-dory in like a really B-movie way that's actually very enjoyable, but for the most part, it just feels like a slog. The exploration is like so bare bones and mindless. There's no real thought behind it. Granted, I actually think in some ways it's better than like 7 remakes because there is a jump button, and even though there's a lot of invisible walls, there's also some parts where like if there's a cliff you can jump down and you're not forbidden from jumping down, but then like that's like half the time there is, and then half the time you try jumping down and you're blocked off for no reason. It follows like no rhyme or reason. The combat has no impact to it whatsoever. Even your big flashy special moves when you fill up your gauge and then you unleash like the screen clear, it feels like you're smacking boys with tissue paper. I feel like honestly the only redeeming factor of Trials of Mana, for me at least, is the soundtrack is very good. However, it's also extremely iterative on the SNES soundtrack, which in my opinion is also the only redeeming factor of that game, which was one of the best soundtracks on Super Nintendo at the time. Trials of Mana, you know, it's a very like one-to-one remake of that soundtrack, which is so much better than what the Secret of Mana remake was. But I don't know, man. I was so disappointed and underwhelmed by Trials of Mana. Oh, catch me dead before I go back, if we're gonna be real. If you like the Mana series, and if you liked Second Densetsu 3, I think there's some very cool aspects to it. There's this whole thing where there's 6 party members, and right at the beginning, when you make your new file, you choose 3 of them. And then that's like the party that you have throughout the rest of the game. There's a bunch of unique combinations of like party dialogues and story events that play out in different sequences depending on those 3 that you picked right from the start. And I think that aspect's actually handled very well, and it does give the game some replay value. But the story is so basic and like dumb and stupid and goofy. Like it's not like you're playing for the story anyway, so that replayability aspect feels like it's totally wasted. I don't know. D tier. What's another one? Ooh, okay, I think this is actually the worst game that I played from 2020. So the Witcher series on Netflix dropped, and I ended up binging that in like, I think it was 2 days. It was like one night, and I tried to pull an all-nighter, and then I fell asleep, and then I woke up, and then that following morning, immediately finished the rest of it. Loved it to pieces. It was very fun. And then I was immediately like, oh man, I need to try out the games now. I'm so invested in Geralt and his cool eyes and neato Big Bang swords. So I was like, you know what, I could play Witcher 3. Everybody liked Witcher 3, but I'm not gonna play Witcher 1. Everybody says that is a hot garbage mess. 2 might be a good place to start. And in some ways it's an okay, like it's not a game without redemption in some categories, but it is a hot mess in a lot of ways. It feels very unrefined. The gameplay is not fun. Action RPG, but like it's very unwieldy. Menus are burdened by like 72 layers that don't make any rhyme or reason. Yeah, 2 is not a great game. It's crazy how long they were making like Witcher content and games in general, but they really did start. I feel like they only started peaking as a studio with Witcher 3 and onwards. And even that, it's crazy. They had the big hit with Witcher 3, and now we're back to Cyberpunk, which is kind of a hot mess again. I don't know. Yeah, it was a swing and a miss with Witcher 2. Extremely on rails. Absolutely plagued a million years and back with invisible walls, which is one of my #1 pet peeves. This is going to come up a lot, honestly. Any game with like a copious amounts of invisible walls where like you can very clearly like walk off a path if you want to get someplace, but the game prevents you from that because fuck it, why not, right? I fucking hate that. Witcher 2 is like filled to the brim with it. I mean, Trials of Mana is like half and half of it. Fucking hate it. Both of them in D tier. Get them out of here. It was as bad as Cyberpunk when it came out. I don't know. I mean, was it as riddled with glitches? Because that would be interesting. That'd be an interesting parallel to make with like the development of Witcher 2 compared to Cyberpunk. But to pivot though, Witcher 3 is genuinely a great game. I will say Witcher 3 is such an improvement in every category, not even funny. Beautiful. One of the prettiest games I played last year, like easily. 2015? That's insane. That game holds up so goddamn well for a 6-year-old game. 5.5, whatever. Yeah, that's crazy. Good on them. Yeah, Witcher 3 holds up visually. Soundtrack's phenomenal. Gameplay is a blast. It's very open-ended. It's kind of like open world RPG, but the worlds, like the areas aren't too big to where I feel like you get like Omega distracted and off the beaten path and like aimless. There's still like a very clear path forward that you're encouraged to take. Really engaging story. It starts off with like on a really strong foot, mostly because you see Geralt naked in bathtub in like first 15 minutes. And if that's not a bold artistic choice, man, I don't know what is. Phenomenal. There's this whole system where like you take on these bounties or these hunts for these huge, super crazy, cryptic monstos, and then you have this like whole process where you have to research them, and then you have to prepare salves and potions to like buff yourself, and it's this whole like you pick your target, and then it feels like there's like an hour of preparation to like study the monster and then set your traps and get all of your stuff geared and situated. But it's in a way that doesn't feel like a chore, but like it's this genuinely immersive, like I feel like I'm a bounty hunter experience. And that's hype as hell. Also, Gwent, yeah, is a goddamn riot. Best like side minigame since Dark Cloud 2 fishing, and that's a high bar. All right, so Witcher 3 is an easy A tier. Easy A tier. Also, I didn't beat it. I will, disclaimer, didn't beat it. However, I would love to go back to it at some point. Also, it has booba and copious amounts of sex. So come on. I mean, obviously it's got to eclipse Cuphead for that alone. All right, man, that's just art. Booba make the world go around. A little Tomahawk Aruga, a little dollop of it, never hurt nobody. Ys 1 and 2. For anyone who doesn't know, Ys 1 and 2 had this really, they're like old school RPGs. They originally released, I think on like TurboGrafx or like Windows, not DOS. They're very old, like 80s RPG old. And instead of doing copy paste like turn-based combat, like what, you know, games of yore would always revert to, especially for JRPGs, it uses this bump system, which is cool. Like it's a really cool concept because like instead of like being turn-based or whatever, you're actively running around the map. There's no random encounters. All the enemies are on the overworld, which especially at the time, like in the 80s, was almost unheard of. It was I think it's referred to as the grandfather of action RPGs. It was like one of the very first of its line. Yeah, 87 for the first one. Very innovative at the time. And basically how it works is instead of like selecting attacks or whatever, or like swinging a sword, you physically move Adol, who's your character. You have to physically run into enemies to deal damage to them. If you hit the enemies straight on, then both you and the enemy take damage. But if you hit them, so you clip them on the sides or from the side or like from behind, then you hurt them without taking damage yourself. And it's a really cool idea, especially because the movement is like reasonably fast. Enemies move at like a pretty good clip. I don't know how the original does, but in this Ys 1 and II Chronicles Plus, which is the remake of the game, you fucking hustle. Like there's no sprint button. And if there was, I'd lose my mind because it is a fast paced game. You go by at a good clip. And I think for the first like 3-5 hours of playing Ys 1, I was like, wow, this is so simple. It's kind of mindless because there's no attack button or anything. You're not timing anything. You're just running into enemies, but it's actually designed very well. It's very fun and satisfying. It can also go horribly awry, literally in a second, because you don't have iframes. And enemies can stunlock you, so if you like accidentally hit something a little wrong, you will insta-die, and there's no checkpoints, so you have to go back to your save game, and that does get kind of frustrating. I think the only issue with Ys 1 is that it's a little archaic, can be a little hard to figure out where you need to go, and there is a lot of mindless wandering if you're playing for the first time without a guide, which I did. But in a way, it's actually still very immersive. It has fun NPC dialogue, which I enjoyed a lot. It's a really like, especially for the time, right? And it's a very small game, but the couple towns that you go to and like the world itself feels extremely lived in. And there's a lot of dynamic NPC dialogue where like every time you hit a story flag, you can go back to town and there's like a bunch of new things that the NPCs say. There's a bunch of like hidden side quests where the game doesn't explicitly tell you what to do, but if you like piece things together, then you can like get these really crazy cool rewards just for like being observant about it, which I love to pieces. That's like some of my favorite stuff in a game when I can feel like really properly immersed in the game and its world. I think the only issue where I really falls apart is the second half, because the second half is the final dungeon of the game. You spend like the first 5 hours in this cool like open world, and you're going to different towns and dungeons, and you're fighting these really hard but like satisfying boss fights and stuff. And then you go to the last dungeon, which locks you out from going back to the overworld. You're stuck in this dungeon, and it is one of the most grueling, most annoying experiences I've ever encountered in my life. It is such a downgrade to the previous portion of the game. I feel like it's not even funny. The final boss fight is the most RNG laden, screen filled, like bullet hell bullshit I've ever experienced in my life. It was so annoying. For the last half, it severely maybe a mauling gentleman. If you play East 1, just play like the first half of it and then move on to 2, which I think is more fun. I actually haven't beaten East 2 yet. I want to, but God, last half of East 1 fucking blows. I hate it, man. I will say, I mean, just like offer it, Bangido Kumbayeda is the best character in Danganronpa, easily. However, I do think that V3 is my favorite game overall. V3 is my favorite, and especially like right at the time, right off rip, I said this when credits rolled, and I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna feel about this in like a year from now. Maybe this is recency bias speaking, but no, I can confidently say V3 is my favorite game. V3 easily has the strongest identity of like the story that it's trying to tell, and the way that it weaves both that story and its themes like into the gameplay in like really cool and interesting ways, right? Like it's all about the dichotomy between truth and lies, and the way that they can be both helpful and harmful, right? And like the power that media plays, which is basically one bundle of lies that can still bring like joy and purpose to our lives, even despite us knowing that it's lies, right? That final chapter, man, is, even though if we're gonna keep it a buck, even though visual novels in general just are not my thing, You Will Catch Me Dead before any visual novel will ever be in like my top 25, even like my top 50. If we're being honest, I feel like the gameplay is a drag in V3, in Danganronpa as a whole. It just annoys me when like, you know, it's all logic puzzles, and like half the time you know exactly what the game wants you to say, but you don't know how it wants you to get there, and then it just becomes this like guess and check of what it's like trying to get you to say. I don't like that aspect of it. The mini games are shoehorned in. They're not that fun to do, if we're gonna be real. I think the most fun I have with like Danganronpa mini games is like the taxi one. And even that, it's like, yeah, it's not anything to write home about, if we're gonna be perfectly honest here, all right? The rhythm game is annoying. The Hangman's Gambit with the bubbles doing their thing is, actually, I did kind of enjoy that one. But it's so, I don't know, it's so unnecessary, right? Even though like a lot of the writing is not like the best, right? It's not a masterclass in writing, but it does have a lot of heart. It has a lot of great like individual character moments that I think really carries it. And that's kind of, at least that's like my opinion on all the games, but V3 especially, just, I don't know, man. I love the cast. I think one of the strongest casts in the series. I think I like them overall more than I like 2's. I think 2 was really carried by Chiaki and Kumbayeda for me, right? Everybody else was kind of whatever. V3 just has more boys that I love and adore, that were my sons. And then you couple that with like, oh, one of the coolest, most meta endings I've ever experienced from any form of media, period. And yeah, I really enjoyed V3. Never gonna play it again. Will Catch Me Dead. And I think a lot of the enjoyment I got was streaming it and being there with James. It's like one of his favorite games of all time, right? I think that was a big part of it, but I think that's still equally valid, right? Coco, don't even get me started on the knife. You know what? For the knife, see, it's fucking dead to me. This game never happened. The knife never happened, all right? But no, I think V3, it is my favorite Danganronpa. Even for folks like me who really do not vibe with visual novels, it is not their thing, right? I think I would recommend Danganronpa and to play through all of them, or at least like, you know, 1, 2, and V3, purely so that everyone can experience that ending. I think it is that good. It is one of those endings that like all the stuff leading up to it besides, it will stick with me for years. It's incredible. Masterpiece. I'll even say, yeah, masterpiece of an ending. So A tier. Easy. DMC5 was a fucking romp, dude. If you've not played DMC5, you are doing yourself a disservice. I was doing myself a disservice because it is one of those games that the more time you sink into it, the more godlike it becomes. I beat my first playthrough and I remember my exact thought. My frame one thought was like, yeah, that was okay. That was pretty fun. I could probably do better. And so then I started it on the next difficulty up and I was like, yeah, let's just give it another roll. cool. And then like things started clicking. I started watching like combo videos and like tutorials on like deeper mechanics and stuff. I started learning how to string like Dante's skills and weapons together, and I'm still not that good, right? But like, if you are somebody who enjoys fighting games and enjoys the process of like starting one very fresh, where you're like dog shit at it, but you love the experience of that learning curve of like feeling yourself getting exponentially better as you put more time into it, DMC5, it scratches that itch that like few games can. It easily has one of the best, if not maybe it just is the best character action game I've ever played. It is god tier. The music, fucking incredible. Beautiful to look at. And I just wanted to fucking smooch me all over my big goofy gob. Very handsome. I stan. It brings a lot of really cool, interesting ideas too. There's this whole system, I can't remember the exact name of it. It's like, you know what I'm talking about. There's the system where not every chapter has this, but a lot of chapters will have this multiplayer aspect where as you're playing through, other people can like drop in and you can temporarily do like sections of the chapter in co-op. And it's like seamless the way that like people hop in and out of it. And it always happens where it makes sense in stories where like the characters, you have like three main characters. You have Dante, Nero, and N are your three characters, and they're like, they each have like separate things going down that are like crisscrossing, flowing, webbing in and out together. And like the points in the story where they cross paths, you can also cross paths in gameplay, and there's like one chapter specifically where all three of you can hop in at once, and the times that it has happened was so fucking godlike, so much fun. Oh wait, was I calling him N? His name's V. Sorry, God, I'm such a fake fan. Might be. Anyway, that aspect of it is so unique. Haven't really experienced something like that since like Journey, and I fucking live for it. So DMC5, easy S tier. I don't know if it's gonna hit top 25, honestly, but I do want to go back and I want to get the platform, which I know is like insanely hard, but I feel up to it. I want to get back into it. I love it to pieces, and I think again, like the more time you put into it, the more you end up enjoying it. So I could see myself, if and when I do get the plat, maybe it will become top 25. It easily could. It is that good. The potential, the ceiling is there. And you're right. It's not just S tier, Conrad. It's SSS tier. Super smoking sausage tier is what I put it at. Hell yeah. Yo, DJ, turn it up. Give me those bagpipes. Woo! Bagpipe hype. Final Fantasy XIII, I think is excellent. Granted, I'm biased towards it because it was my very first PS3 game. It was my very first HD game period, and I was like blown away by how cool it looked. I think it gets too much flack. Every Final Fantasy is a hallway simulator in like a lot of ways. Literally, I would even argue Final Fantasy X, dearly beloved entry in the series, is way more linear and limited than 13 ever is. Because 13 at least has chapter 13 where it like opens up and it literally just becomes Xenoblade with this like crazy huge area with like a bunch of side quests and stuff that you can do in any order or whatever. 13's a good time. Is the story the greatest? No. In some areas it is a hot mess. And gameplay wise, it takes a while to get going. I will definitely concede that like 13 takes, I would say like 15 hours minimum for like the combat to, or like the paradigm system to unlock fully and like become this really cool in-depth system. Before then it's very middling and like you just kind of mash the auto attack button and the game plays itself for you. If you can get past that, and if you can get into like reading the codex entries on things so you can like actually understand what's happening in the story, I think you're in for a good time. I enjoyed my time with 13 a lot. Plus the soundtrack's fucking, it's one of the best Final Fantasy soundtracks. Like easy, it's good. I fully understand anybody who just like who couldn't like see it through to the end. I get it. I honestly think there's a strong chance, had it not been my very first PS3 game, I also might not have finished it. I just literally didn't have anything else to play except Portal 2. That was like the two games that I got for my PS3, 2012. So that is 100% valid. All right, Dragon Marked for Death. This is essentially, it's like another Mega Man Zero game. It's like a spiritual successor to the Mega Man Zero games. If you know what they are, you know my absolute favorite like line of Mega Man games. The guy who did the character designs and like the art for Mega Man Zero was also part of this team for Dragon Marked for Death. Like same dude, and it looks so good because of that. It just scratches this huge nostalgia itch in me. It's kind of like a cross between Mega Man Zero and like Monster Hunter in a way. It you have this like little town hub where you can go around and see your merchant vendors and like upgrade weapons and armor and stuff. It's an RPG. There's like experience, and as you fight enemies, you level up and you get stronger and stuff. There's like stats to it, which is different than Mega Man Zero. But the gameplay is very Mega Man Zero-esque, and it's divided into missions where like each mission has different objectives, like Monster Hunter, where like sometimes you're fighting this huge like screen-filling boss enemy, and you fight them to get like loot and drops that you go to then like make and upgrade armor and weapons and stuff, right? Very Monster Hunter. Or sometimes it's like miscellaneous objectives like helping out NPCs water their plants or toss chicken eggs into a basket. There's a lot of variation. It's a really fun game. It gets very grindy in the end game, but it plays and handles very well. Soundtrack's really popping. Although I'll be real, I actually can't remember many tunes from it. Maybe because I just haven't played it like a ton yet. But from what I have played, it's a really good time. If you like that genre of games, you'll like Dragon Mark for Death. It also has co-op, which is cool. 4-player co-op. It does a lot of really neat things. It gets extremely grindy, which might not be for everybody. I've heard that the post-game is very obnoxious because of it, because like drop rates in general just like suck. But for like the main campaign, fucking juicy. I heartily recommend it. I'm gonna put it bottom of A, hearty recommendation. 7 Remake, easy S tier. Easy S tier, and okay, I know this is crazy, but like, I guess we're just gonna get into this right now. 7 Remake was my favorite game from 2020. The only reason why Xenoblade is higher is because like, it's Xenoblade. All right, it's like a 2011 game, so it's kind of unfair in that way. Definitive Edition is just base Xenoblade, but better in like every single way. The quality of life updates. I literally am in the process of making a video that details all of them, and right now I'm at 84 different improvements that Definitive Edition has made over the base game. Some of them pretty small, and like nitpicky in like how much they improved the base experience, but some of them are huge, gargantuan. So like, obviously Xenoblade it's my favorite game of all time. It's of course it's always gonna be #1 on this list, but 7 Remake, 7 Remake, favorite game. Granted, I'm not a Final Fantasy VII Andy. I still haven't beaten it. It's on this list because after I played Remake, I was so enthralled by it that I wanted to experience the base game, and I still haven't beaten it, and I feel bad saying that. 7 Remake, oh my god, where do you even begin, man? It has, by far, the best, most satisfying action RPG combat I have ever experienced in my life. Genuinely nothing even comes close. Maybe like Phantasy Star Online 2. Oh shit, which I did play last year. I forgot to include it. Okay, well we'll get to that, I guess. It is the best combat you can find on the market. Some people argue that the pacing is dog shit in 7 Remake because there are like a lot of additional side quests and like follow tracking where you're just like, you know, walking with somebody and they're talking and whatever. And there's like some areas that I'll even concede really don't need to exist. A lot of people argue that there's like a lot of sections of the game that are that way. For me, there was only one instance where I was kind of annoyed. It felt like the pacing wasn't that good, and it was it's right after Chapter 9, which is Wall Market, which is like the peak of that game. Right after there's like the sewer section, which isn't that bad because it's like 45 minutes, and there you have a lot of like great character moments between Cloud, Tifa, and Aerith. Fun boss fight right at the start, and then actually really fun like regular enemies that you fight along the way. So I didn't have any issue with the sewers, but then immediately after, there's this ghost train yard. And that to me, it's just a lot of like hokey dokey story kerfluffle that doesn't really matter, doesn't really add anything, at least it didn't for me. Boss fights are kind of annoying in it. There's a lot of backtracking in that area, and I think it took me like 2-3 hours to get through, which on repeat playthroughs wouldn't take me that long. But it's literally right before the plate in Sector 7 is about to fall, and you learn about this. So like the stakes are huge, and you're trying to rush to like get to the actual like really impactful and cool story moment, and it's bogged down by this really terrible section that in the base game was literally only like 1 or 2 screens. They took 1 or 2 screens and they made like a 2-3 hour dungeon out of it. And I didn't enjoy that, but that was standing. Everything else about that game, to me at least, is like peak perfection. It just has the best writing of any Final Fantasy. It's like the first time in such a long time where the characters talk with each other like actual people, all right? I hate to be the guy who's like, oh, fucking all these Japanese video games, everybody's written like anime. Because a lot of that time, I feel like that doesn't hold a lot of weight. But there's still, especially for Final Fantasy, like there's a lot of dialogue and stuff where I feel like, it feels very like floofy, very like, not the way that you and I would talk to one another, if that makes any sense. I think 15 did a really great job of like leading the way with making conversations between characters just sound a little bit more natural and like cool. And I loved it for that. And VII Remake is the absolute pinnacle of that example. It has the best character writing I've ever witnessed, not only from Final Fantasy, but just from like any game ever. It's insane. I think that this track, the Airbuster theme alone, warrants and like experiencing that as Airbusters dropped into the arena, and then you're going through and like fucking explosions are popping out every 5 seconds. Your mama's fucking going ballisto in the next room because she can just feel the vibes emanating from how fucking dope and hype this moment is. I think this song alone just like, it warrants the $60 price tag for VII Remake. Oh, it's so good! And then, like, and you're going through, and the fight itself is just so much fun. It has this insane element where, like, you're going through the area beforehand, and you get to customize how the fight, like, how difficult the fight's gonna be. There's, like, 3 different components to the Airbuster itself, and you get to decide which ones are taken from it to nerf certain attacks or, like, certain aspects of the fight. So it's almost like a Build-A-Bear boss fight on its own, which is such a cool idea. But you're, like, you're going through, right? You're on your last string. You're playing in hard mode. You know you gotta keep trucking on. You don't know how you're going to. But then the goddamn choir comes in. Gives you a second win. Ah! Ah! Ba 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 ba. Fuck, dude. That's just sex. I don't care who you is, all right? I don't care who you be, all right? There are so many moments like that in VII Remake. That is just pure, unadulterated, bottled video game sex. Straight to my pussy, ah, ooh, ah. All right. Is it the perfect game? Absolutely not. There's a lot of areas for improvement. There's some like texture loading issues that the game had that were kind of weird and immersion breaking. Whether you like the end of the game or not, it's totally up to debate. They do a lot of like crazy meta things. It's really not a remake. It's a sequel. It's even been confirmed now by the developers that it's not a remake. It is a sequel to the original game. And so, and a lot of people didn't want that. A lot of people just wanted a traditional remake, and that's not what they got. So like, you know, maybe it's not for some people, but man, for me, this game was everything I could ever ask for from a game, and then some. I mean, let's be real. It had Chadley, and he was like, "Wow, Cloud in the dress. I got a boing boing now. Whoa, that's crazy. Wow, it's Step Cloud. What?" And that alone, I mean, yeah. So then we come to Final Fantasy VII. I've actually tried now 3 different times to beat 7, and I've never been able to see it through to the end. And I hate myself for it, because I genuinely think that 7 is a really good game. The only reason why 7 Remake is as good as it is because it's built off an incredible foundation. And I will say, I definitely got further last year than I ever have trying to get into 7, because one of my favorite aspects of 7 Remake is no stone was left unturned when remaking it. Playing 7 Remake and then going back and playing 7 was such a mind-blowing experience, because I kid you not, every single NPC, every single minor story event, location, fucking every single like minor sprite you find in the maps is represented and like taken into account in the remake in like some way, shape, or form. Some of it's very on the nose and some of it's like really discreet, but it's all there. And like that process of seeing just how faithful in so many ways the remake is that you didn't even expect to see makes playing through the original after remake a really fun and cool time. I feel like the only issue is like, in general, I just don't vibe that much with turn-based. Like I've always been an action RPG guy to my core, and if a game is turn-based, it needs to do like a ton with the formula to like really shake things up. And while 7 does have active time battle, which makes things a little bit better for like my ADHD brain, it I don't know, I feel like it's almost not enough to like keep me there all the way. It's one of those games I know for sure I am going to see through at some point, but it's probably not going to be until Remake Part 2 drops when I finally get around and just like complete the boy. It's a great RPG. I want it to be for me, it's not, but I still enjoyed my time with it. And the only reason why I didn't follow through all the way with it is because I just get distracted by other things. If I'm not like hyper fixating on it, usually something comes along that makes me hyper fixate, and then I drop whatever it was that I was in the middle of. For me, that's just what happened with 7. I still like it a lot, can recommend it a lot for anybody who hasn't played it. I mean, it's a little dated in some ways, like obviously it's, you know, about as early PS1 RPG as it gets, right? It's a great time. It's a great time. I enjoyed my time with it, and I think my experience was exponentially improved after playing Remake. So if it's something that you struggle to get into, I would recommend the Remake, on God, because then it will make your foray into the OG, I think, so much more enjoyable and interesting. Even if you're not like vibing with the gameplay, there's a lot you can pick up after playing Remake. At least that's what it was for me. Also true, Hammer, I actually agree with that a lot. I think the Midgar section in 7 is really, really good. It, like pacing wise, it is actually like perfection. It's so good in the OG, and then once it opens up, I would even say like, even when you get to Calm, because Calm's like right after, and it's like a 30-second walk, and then you're still in like a big sequence of interesting and like mind-bending story events that are like really intriguing and cool and neat. But then I would say after that, it definitely slows down a lot, like a lot. And then that's when you really, by that point, you need to be like hooked, line and sinker, I think, to really see it through. And if you're not, then it's very easy to get distracted from it. Yeah, first like 10-15 hours are incredible. Honestly, like worth experiencing on their own, on God. And then the rest, hey, that's up to you, but I think you can still pull a lot of great stuff away from 7. Final Fantasy XII is interesting because I know this is probably one of the most divisive boys. Probably it's like this and 8, maybe like 3, 2. I mean, 2, I feel like nobody actually likes 2. At least there's like fans of 3, but it's also very divisive because it's super old school and like kind of annoying. 8's just like, I know it's kind of all over the place, but also has like dedicated following. 12, I think, is really cool because it's an Ivalice, and I fucking adore Ivalice as a setting, even though I've never played through an Ivalice game all the way. There's just something about it, and like the producers, like Vagrant Story and Final Fantasy Tactics, that just has always intrigued me and has always been something that I've wanted to get into. And 12 is aided because it looks, on God, so much like Xenoblade. I swear to God, it has the exact same aesthetic as Xenoblade. Maybe not in like the settings themselves, because it's a lot of like deserts and like oasis towns and like that kind of vibe, which you don't really get a lot of in Xenoblade 1. But like, I don't know, the way that the characters, they're textured, where it's like almost like kind of painterly, that sort of like, I don't know, like PS2 era with the way that the cinematics are and look, and I don't know, it's hard to put into words, right? But there's like a certain vibe I feel like OG Xenoblade gives, and 12 fucking hits that vibe so hard too, which I loved. It also has like weird pseudo MMO gameplay, which, you know, is also very Xenoblade-esque. And I would honestly argue that I think 12 is one of the closest games you can get to a Xenoblade experience that isn't just another Xenoblade, if that makes any sense. 12, like gameplay, I think it's just very hit or miss. You either have to really enjoy the like auto-attacking aspect of like micromanaging your party members' like larger actions as opposed to like manually inputting everything that they do. There's this gambit system, if you're not aware, where you basically program your characters to behave in certain ways, and there's like a million different ways to customize it. It's one of the most like 5-head ways I've ever seen a game's combat be presented, because there's like a million different like if-and statements that you can assign to your characters, and there's like branching ways that they can interact depending on certain conditions that are met or not met in a battle. It is literally like, the more IQ you possess, I think the more you get out of 12. And you couple that with like a really cool bounty system and a really great plot with like cool characters that also actually kind of feel a little grounded in a way. I think the character writing is really good, because I just think the team that does Vagrant Story and Final Fantasy Tactics and Final Fantasy XII, even though it's not like super realistic, they usually just wax a whole lot of poetic. It's in like a really artistic and like almost Shakespearean way, right? Like the tactics ogre approach of like every line that somebody says is like this beautiful one-liner that sends everybody creaming. I think there's a lot to love, and even if some certain aspects don't vibe with you, I think it's worth a shot to play, because I think there's a lot that you can latch onto. It's another one of those, I would love to see it through. Literally what happened, I was playing this and then 7 Remake came out, and then that's what took over. But I think I would love to go back to it at some point soon. I'm I'm not a great, I'll be real, I'm not a great source for like Final Fantasy discourse because literally the only ones that I've beaten are 13, 15, 6, and 7 Remake. That's it. I'm so fucking, I'm a fake fan. I'm like your mom playing Candy Crush. When my first game and one of my favorites in the series is 13, goddamn, I'm playing Cut the Rope of Final Fantasy over here. Everybody else playing Infinity Blade, and I'm over here with goddamn Doodle Jump, you know? Anyway, we've been doing, there's a lot of bangers here. Let's do something, okay, Future Connected. End of the day, Future Connected isn't bad, because it is Xenoblade, right? And like, Xenoblade's like pizza. Even if it's not like the best, come on. It's goddamn Xenoblade, man. Like, it can't go too wrong. I think there's a lot of missteps in Future Connected. I hate that chain attacks were taken out and replaced by the Knock-On system. Because for starters, you don't even get full access to the Knock-On until like halfway in. I feel like it takes forever to get the Knock-On Specters. Granted, I was just bad at finding them, so maybe it's a little bit sooner, but it's harder, which is interesting. You don't get visions, which turns out game is like significantly harder when you don't get 15 seconds to react to a party wipe. When it just happens off rip and you're not prepared for it, goddamn. It doesn't feel great. Gotta kind of take it for granted a lot, you know? The story, you know, it's one of those unfortunate things going into it with the title Future Connected. I think myself and a lot of folks had really, maybe unrealistically high expectations for what we were going to get out of it. I know I was expecting some way that it was going to tie in to or X or even like Gears or Saga, even if it was going to be some like really discreet, subdued way, right? I was kind of like,
ooh, oh, Future Connected, is Rex gonna sweet choke directly on lip?
Right? It's kind of, I feel like, what a lot of us wanted going into it, and it doesn't happen. It's just an epilogue that doesn't really need to exist. You get some great closure with Melia. I think genuinely her, what are they called? Not heart-to-hearts, but chin wags between her and Tyrea are fucking 10 out of 10. They're like some of the best heart-to-hearts from both Xenoblade 1 and Xenoblade Future Connected, right? Genuinely heartfelt, really great stuff. I think for that alone, Future Connected is worth experiencing for the moments with Tyrea, because that really ties up her loose ends and like solidifies the relationship that those two have in a really cool and I think kind of grounded way in the sense of like having a family member that you don't vibe with, but kind of like learning to live alongside them and still prop each other up even if you don't see eye to eye on a lot of things, right? Still like finding that mutual respect out of the ashes of like a pretty not good relationship. I think it's handled really well in a really cool way. I think the only issue is like everything else is just kind of underwhelming. The exploration's fun. The shoulder is great. It's a cool area. It's got a lot of variety for like one single area, which obviously it's on purpose because it's the only area aside from that one like floating platform from Aerith and then, you know, Alchemoth, which we've seen a million times over. I don't know. It just, you know, it didn't need to exist, end of the day. It didn't do anything really crazy. I'm still bummed that they didn't do anything cool with Nene and Kino. Like, dude, imagine if they had merged Charlotte and Ryan's art with Ricky's and like they'd given Kino all of Ricky's like ether and support arts, and then they'd given Nene all of Ricky's like physical and tanky arts, right? You could have had this really cool moment where even if the combat overall, because it's still like missing the chain attacks and you don't get visions and stuff, right? It's still like kind of a step down. You can at least play around with like cool hybrid characters from the base game that you wouldn't be able to experience otherwise. But the fact that they're copy pasted, fucking, it's like, what was the point, man? There's so much more they could have done with it with still very little effort. So I was bummed about that. The songs are good. The new music's really good. It's not really my jam. I'm gonna be perfectly honest. Like the new battle theme is very quaint, but it doesn't hit the same notes that like Torna's battle theme does. It's also very jazzy, but not, I don't know. I can listen to the Torna battle theme for like hours on end. But Future Connect battle theme, I kind of get old of it, gets tiring after a bit. And honestly, it's kind of like listening to Gower Plain on loop. I love Gower Plain as a song, but like, you listen to that for like 20 minutes straight, and I, doom. Okay, we get a Gower Plain. We get it, dude. You got 3 bass drums. I'm moving on. Yeah, it is very funky. I guess it's less jazzy and more like kind of funky, right? And that is a cool direction. It is a really cool direction. It's just, I don't know. It's not my favorite addition music-wise in the game. The Fog Beast fight stuff is really good. Yeah, there we go. So, C tier, I'm glad I played through it, but I don't know. Side quests were okay. Some of the end ones are really great. The one with Bana is actually incredible. I fucking adored what they did with Bana and the way that everybody in the party like just sees him and they're like, Hey, wait a sec. Wait, hey, you seem awfully familiar. And then he gets all nervous and sweating. Yeah, that one was so much fun. There are some really good side quests actually in Future Connected. There's a couple that are really good, but it's not enough to prop it up. And I think it's just C tier. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't like phenomenal either. It wasn't groundbreaking. High C tier, maybe low B, but I'll put C for now because we need something in C, right? Yeah, the giant cake was a really good time. There's a lot to enjoy from it. At the end of the day, it just gave us a little bit of additional Xenoblade 1 content, and I can't hate it for that. I just kind of wish that they maybe would have put a little bit more in to make it something truly special and to make it something that I would want to actively revisit and replay like I do with Torna on like a yearly basis. Yeah, it's not Torna, maybe, is another way to look at it, right? And that's fine. It was still okay. I'm also gonna put Terraria here. I used to be a huge Terraria stan. I literally have a Terraria Let's Play on my channel. It was one of the very first things I did after I beat Limbo. I started an Oracle of Ages and Terraria playthrough at the same time because I was that gung-ho about Terraria. But I'll be honest, man, I don't know what happened. I feel like I lost some of the magic of my youth because the sandbox, like creative games like Terraria and Minecraft and stuff, they just, I don't know, they don't hit like they used to. Minecraft used to be like a top 10 game for me. I don't know, I feel like I lost the intrinsic motivation to like find my own fun in games. I feel like I'm a senile, crocky old man who needs to like be explicitly pointed to what I need to do to like enjoy myself. I need to have like very visceral like carrots on sticks that I can see on the horizon, like 12 at a time, that I know I can go and explore at my own volition. And if I don't have that immediately, then I'm just like, what's the point? I just lose interest. I don't know. Terraria's an amazing game. Like genuinely one of the best indies, you know, that's been around for a while now, but it just keeps falling down the peg. And I think the kind of the nail in the coffin was me, James, and Justin were trying to play co-op, and God, for the love of God, I just could not get into it. I don't know what happened, but Terraria, it's very mid for me now. Not a bad game, but it's not for me now, as much as I try. On that note, actually, let's go into Minecraft, because actually, Minecraft has way more of a hook to me than Terraria does. There was actually a period of time, it was actually right around October when all the stuff with my mom was going down. I actually found a lot of escape in Minecraft. It was also right around the time I got really into Hololive. And, you know, they were big on their Minecraft collabs and stuff, which is what got me to reinstall Minecraft. But I actually had a solo world for about a month and a half, 2 months, and I kind of went hog wild on it, and I had a lot of fun. I have no plans now to like replay it and revisit it like I had my fill, and now I'm good. But it was actually a good reminder that I guess I can still have fun. I just think Minecraft does a better job than Terraria to, I don't know, to pique my interest. I feel like you can be more creative with the structures and stuff that you make. And I don't know, I mean, Terraria is okay at like setting goals and stuff, but like with Minecraft, you have the achievements and stuff, and that was like a big part of what helped me kind of like find things to do, as I just went through achievement lists. And I was like, oh, hey, I've never beat the end before. Let me go and actually try to do that for once. Right? I've never actually stormed another fortress in my life. Why don't I actually try like hunting that in the Nether? And it was like the new Nether updates. There's a lot of cool biomes and stuff. I actually really enjoy Minecraft. It's one that I might revisit like once a year or so. And when I do, I'm still gonna have a really good time with it. I think there's a reason why it is one of the most popular and most prolific games of our generation. That's because it's amazing. It's a really great feat of game design. And the fact that we keep going through waves on YouTube where it kind of like ebbs away, and then it just takes the YouTube and Twitch meta by storm again and again and again, I think it speaks a lot of volumes about the power that Minecraft has. Genuinely great time. I do like it a lot more than Terraria. Also, there's a thing that I made in my single player that I want to show you guys at one point, because I made this humongo cathedral in survival, replete with this like crazy stained glass portrait thing, and like a basement, and like huge towers with like for like a bell, and it's insane. It's easily one of the most like batshit crazy things I've ever made in Minecraft. I'm so insanely proud of it. I think it turned out really cool, and I just want to show it off. I just want to, hi, here's my Minecraft thing. Here, this is for you, chat. I'm gonna do that at one point. Ooh. Praey For the Gods. I feel like this one's kind of in the shadows. For anyone who doesn't know what Praey For the Gods is, it's an indie that's inspired heavily off of Shadow of the Colossus. It is. I would love to see your huge good. Hey, Hammer. I want to see those turrets and gullies myself, my man. If you picking up what I'm putting down, bro. I want to see that. I want to see that buttress. Yeah. Oh, the bell top. Oh, baby. Oh, honey. Oh, speak more to me. Oh, I need. Oh, I'm getting weak in the knees. I'm shaking. I'm hooting and hollering. Praey For the Gods indie action exploration heavy game, inspired heavily off of Shadow of the Colossus, but with the addition of survival elements. Like you have to forage for food. It takes place in this very like snowy biome, which is kind of neat. You have to manage like getting too cold or whatever, but it also has this huge focus on ginormously scaled boss fights that are more like puzzles, right, than like a big boss fight in something like DMC5 would be. Very immersive game, really cool aesthetics to it. Also really cool mechanically because it literally plays like Shadow of the Colossus if Wander also had a grapple hook. A grapple hook that can latch onto literally like any surface, not just like wood platforms or set points like in Sekiro, but like stone, literally any surface you can use this grapple hook on, which opens up a whole new layer of verticality and platforming that you didn't really get in Shadow. So on paper, Praey For the Gods is really cool, and it scratches a lot of stuff that I really want, especially in a game genre like Shadow of the Colossus that really doesn't have much that's similar to it. The only issue is that it's early access and it's very rough around the edges right now. It's a little obtuse with some of the boss fights in ways that are very unfun. Like imagine if every boss fight is like Avion, where if you fall off or whatever, it takes like 10 minutes to get back up to where you were, which can get very annoying, especially with survival mechanics where you're out of food and water and you're like, you can't sprint or move fast because you don't have any resources in an arena that's like humongous that won't let you replenish anything. So then you can't even like run over, you're like very slowly walking, trying to get back onto the boss and stuff. There's a lot of elements to Praey For the Gods where right now the way that it's balanced can get very unfun very quickly. But I think if they iron it out, it can be a really, really great time. And I don't know if they actually have but yeah, like aesthetically, it's amazing. It looks so cool, man. Look at this. Oh, okay, not you. I wanna see like the big man. Yeah, like look at this dude. Fucking insane. When it's really good, it's fucking juicy. The potential for this game to blow us all away is there. It just needs a lot of elbow grease. It's weird too because it's Shadow of the Colossus, but there's actually regular enemies that you fight. Just a unique thing that you don't get from Shadow. I don't know how I feel about it. I almost kind of wish that they didn't exist. I wish it was more of an atmospheric romp from boss fight to boss fight, but there's regular combat with like regular enemies. So yeah, it could be something really good. It just needs to get polished up, and if it does, honestly, this could be an easy A, maybe even S tier, depending on how it goes, how some of the later boss fights go, because I got stuck on like the third one, and I was just like, okay, I'm done. I can't handle this. I'm too stressed. I'm not having a good time anymore. I'm just gonna move on. They iron that out, and they get some truly like mind-blowing fights, like the goddamn snake from Shadow, or I don't even say Avion is like one of my absolute favorites, right? You get like boss fights of that caliber in Praey For the Gods. Easy A or S tier, but right now C. Right now C. Ring Fit I think is a good B tier. Very good middle of the road. I mean, obviously it's not meant to be like a super story engaging experience, but hey, as a workout game, very fun. Filled with a lot of character, all right? Sometimes after a workout, your guy will be like,
I get high off your sweat.
He says verbatim, 1-to-1. And it's just, you know, and that's cool. That's great. I'm so happy for him and how like turned on he gets from me sweating on him. The workouts are fun and engaging, and if you set the difficulty all the way to the top, it will fucking kick your ass. It'll streamline you. Very good at what it does. I've been using it on and off. I feel bad because I really haven't been that diligent this year with it. It was kind of like October when I stopped doing it consistently, which is on me. It'd be fun to do some Ring Fit streams. I think that could be a fun thing. I need to just like hold myself accountable to incorporating a lot of different workout methods to start burning some of these love handles off. But if you're in the market for a fun workout time, and finally, now that Ring Fit is like actually in stock, we don't have this like crazy shortage of them, I can really recommend it. It's a fun time. That's it. That's all I got. Let's do 14 online. Final Fantasy 14. I hate that I don't love it as much as I want to, because I genuinely think 14 is one of the best MMOs on the market. I mean, if we just talk on like the sheer scope of content that you get, it is one of the best like bangs for your buck for like a monthly subscription service, right? I love the soundtrack. I still listen to like I Am the Sea on a daily basis. It's such a jam, especially in the car. It just makes me feel like Rip Roaring. I get in there, and even though I know I'm just going to Walmart to get more breadsticks, I feel like I'm fucking in for the time of my life. That's what 14 soundtrack does to me. Man, I don't know what it is. I just cannot get myself to love it like everyone else does. And I can't put it to words. I was in the shower for like 45 minutes having an existential crisis because I knew this was gonna come up, and I have no idea how to put into words why I don't vibe with 14. I don't get it, because it's a good video game. It's a great video game. It's like Three Houses in that I know it's like a really great time, and I like it more than Three Houses, but I still I can't put it anywhere above B tier because like, I've tried like 3 different times to get into it, and every time I just get bored. I remember specifically, I'm now halfway through Heavensward, and I've been so underwhelmed by like the story. Like, I feel like the last third of the bridge between Realm Reborn and Heavensward is like leagues better than anything in the first half of Heavensward, and Heavensward was fucking hyped up to like the end of the earth and back. It's like an improvement in every way over Realm Reborn, but I don't know, it always gets to the point where I'm playing, and then literally without me even realizing it, I'm like on Twitter or watching a YouTube video, and then I have to pause and be like, wait, how did I get there? Wasn't I just playing 14? It's like my brain actively prevents me from like being engaged by 14, and maybe it's like, maybe I just don't vibe with how rotation heavy 14 is, because I do feel like, you know, from like almost all jobs, even the ones that are a little bit more RNG heavy, you know, you memorize your sequence of like 8 attacks, and then you copy and paste that for like 99% of your encounters with like enemy mobs. Maybe it's like the lack of budget with the cutscenes and stuff doesn't really pull me in for like big story beats, because it's, you know, there's not a lot of voice acting, or like there's not a lot of dynamic camera angles or something like that. Maybe it's how gated a lot of jobs feel, where it feels like you have to hit Stormblood or Shadowbringers to even like be properly playing the job, and instead you're like, you know, you're playing like a shell of how it should mechanically be. I don't know, because like any one of those things really is not a deal breaker on their own, and even like together, like it's not like it's unfun. I still have fun playing 14, but it's not, I don't know, it's like not enough for it to like grip me. I think 14 is just not for me for now. I'm probably like a couple months or maybe a year from now, I'm gonna try to get back into it, and maybe it'll finally stick. Maybe they'll rework the drip feed of class abilities and attacks and stuff. Maybe they'll fucking put Shulk Xenoblade in as a cameo. I don't know. I want to get into it. I know everybody fucking adores Shadowbringers, and like that aspect alone, it's like I want to experience it. I want to see what the hype is about, but it's just like, it's that experience of like the long running anime where it's like, okay, I know the first 130 episodes are like kind of a slog, kind of like, oh, blah, right? But man, episode 131 is really where it comes into its own. All right, that's when it starts getting juicy. You just got to get through the first 130. Maybe it's that aspect that's gotten me just, I don't know, just not into it. At some point I will though. Fucking Endwalkers or whatever, the next expansion, Sage looks fucking dope, right? Like Gundam in motion, but made into a healer. That's really cool. They're going to the moon. What up with that? Why the moon? Are they going to find the cheese? I hope so. I want to love it. I want to love it, but I can't. All right, let's try the lightning round. A couple of these that I don't need to go as in depth on. Furi, a great game, kind of like Shadow of the Colossus, where it's only boss fights and then like slow walking in between. But incredible soundtrack, really, really fun, satisfying gameplay mechanics. Really rewards like incredibly like complex mechanical proficiency in a way that kind of like a fighting game too, like the MC5. You can like actively feel yourself improving with like every death, with every like minute that you put into the game in like a really cool and satisfying way. Some super creative battle mechanics that are used from like a very limited amount of attacks and mechanics at your disposal. They combine and mix and match in really cool ways. That makes for one of the coolest, most satisfying, and most like adrenaline-soaked boss rushes you can experience in like a very tight, cohesive 8 to 10 hour package. Love it to pieces. I would put, ooh. Yeah, top of A. Furi is an amazing time. If you haven't played it, they actually just released a new co-op game. I can't remember the name of it, but it's like a story between two lovers, and it's like a turn-based RPG, which is a big departure from Furi. But I've heard pretty good things about that too. Seems like it's just a studio where they have a solid vision of what they want to accomplish, and then they just fucking do it. And then they just fucking roll with it. They're incredible at it. Genshin Impact, greatest gacha in the market, easy. One of the more lenient in like giving gacha rates. It's still exploit, it's still gacha, but they're pretty generous with what they give, and the base game doesn't require a penny spent, and the reward is like a 70 to 80 hour chunk of content that is some of the absolute best open world exploration you can find on the market. Literally second only to Breath of the Wild, which I would put directly, oh, well, ooh. Actually, wait, hold up. I do need to put Sekiro and Bloodborne above those two. Even when it becomes kind of like brain dead grinding, once you complete all the like available story content and you're just like grinding to get character mats and stuff, it is some of the most fun action RPG, team-oriented combat. You can get your grubby little mitts on. Beautiful art direction, insane character designs, some incredible voice acting, on top of literally the best cinematics I've ever seen, not only from any free-to-play game, but from like most of these games on this list. The Liyue 1.2 story quests, where like Jade Palace and the huge fucking Omega God thing that goes to invade the city, that cutscene alone fucking cleaved my Angus in and then some. I have never experienced the beauty, the might, the splendor of playing an open world game and being so transfixed by the sights and the sounds that the game is giving to me, where I broke down sobbing. I want to paint a picture. Fuck you, Torna, you goddamn hussy of a game. I need to play this track. Hold up. So much heart, so much thought put into every single square ounce of that game. I kid you not, there are like hundreds of in-game books with like pages and pages and pages of really cool and interesting lore, and every single weapon and armor piece and artifact and even like base material has like really great and well-written flavor text that like enhances the overall world building. Genshin Impact is such like a labor of love, even though it is free to play and gacha, and it will forever taint any other free to play game I experienced in my life, because it's unreal how much is presented with like so much love and care in Genshin. I think everybody should give it a chance. It might not be for you, right? Like you still kind of have to vibe with like big anime and like the brand of combat that it is, which is like very cooldown based and like character switching, not like crazy insane air combos, but a lot more like grounded, like simple attack combos that you just string with like everybody else's thing, right? It's like a very particular flavor of action RPG. Maybe it's not for you, but I think everybody should at least give it a chance. Because imagine, right? There's this one side quest where you're in this mountainous region. You're in Liyue, which is known for like having these crazy tall like mountain peaks and stuff. And there's this one dynamic quest that is, I don't think it's even ever put into your log, but you notice that there's this like statue of a crane. You can rotate it. And you can rotate it in like, I think any of the 4 cardinal directions. And that's kind of crazy. And then maybe you're playing for like another hour or two, and then you stumble upon another one. Same crane statue, but like different spot, another like very high up mountain peak. And then you notice, oh wait, in the middle, there's this even taller one with this like inaccessible platform. What if I turn these cranes to face that platform? And then you do, and like nothing happens. You're like, oh, okay, well maybe I was off about that. But then you're exploring more, and then you find a third one. Find a third one on like the opposite side, and you're like, hey, maybe I'm onto something. Maybe I'm gonna keep doing this, right? And then you do, and then all of a sudden you find out that you just unlocked this crazy hidden quest that does give you access to that really tall floating platform that rewards you with like a huge bundle of character XP and crafting materials. But most importantly, you find yourself at the highest point in the game. The sun has just began to set. This game has one of the absolute prettiest, most jaw-dropping like shaders for sunsets and sunrises I've ever experienced in my life. And as you glide down, sun setting, this starts playing. The wind is like lightly ruffling your character's hair as you can soak in literally the entire map. You're so high up, you get like literally like a minute or two up in the air to just like take a breather and take it all in. And there was something about it, man. I can't even put into words, but I just broke down. And it's very rare for a game to do that, not from like a story moment, but just for me like saying, holy shit, this is a video game that I'm playing. It was powerful, man. If you haven't listened to the Genshin Impact soundtrack, you're doing yourself a disservice, because it is filled with bangers, man. Yo, speaking of bangers, Doggo and the girl are talking again. Woo! Next up, Ghost of Tsushima. It is open world, made by Insomniac, I think, right? No, Sucker Punch, by the guys who made Sly Cooper on PS2, and I believe Dead Zone? One of the PS3 games, I can't remember. Anyway, really solid studio. They always do a really great job. Ghost of Tsushima is like, plays a samurai and you're trying to take back the your island of Tsushima, which is an actual place in Japan, from the invading Mongol forces. It has a really fun, albeit very like simple Simon Says kind of combat, where like 4 types of enemies and you just like use one sword style that's like the clear counter to that, but then you mix it in with like a million different sub tools and stuff, and then there's this really fun stealth system where you can like chain assassin kills to one another, and it's one of those things where like mechanically, if the game was just based off of one gameplay system on its own, it would be very weak. But the fact that there's like dozens of different weapons, weapon types, and like techniques that you can seamlessly transition from like one to the other, because there's so much that you can do at any given time. The limitations of what you do in the combat with Ghost of Tsushima is just limited by your creativity in a lot of ways. It's got some like fun parkour elements to it. It also just is beautiful. It is, I think, easily the prettiest game on PS4 right now. I thought 7 Remake was the prettiest one, and it's still like top 5, but Ghost of Tsushima is easily like the most beautiful game you can play on that system. It's actually insane what they accomplished on a PS4. The loading times alone, it feels like you're playing it on an SDD. Is that the term for it? On solid state drive? SSD. And I don't have one. I just have a PS4 Pro with a regular hard drive. It is optimized to hell and back. Instantaneous load times, beautiful world. I feel like the only thing it gets a little bogged down by is like it's very copy and paste. It's like very Ubisoft with its open world elements. The base story is fucking phenomenal. It's like 10 out of 10. Crazy cool emotional stakes. Also, I'm putting it like top of 8. It was not the actual placement for it. The other side activities though, outside of the main story, weren't as great to me. There's a lot of like side character stories and like character side quests, and those are fantastic. I loved those to pieces, but like the other stuff is just, I don't know, just kind of there to fill in time and to get you to like look at every corner of the map, which there's nothing inherently wrong with that. It's just, I feel like I really appreciate it when games do a little bit more with like their copy paste content instead of just like doing the same jumping puzzle for like 8 shrines in a row that you kind of fall into with Ghost of Tsushima. But the rest of the content that backs up that stuff is so fucking phenomenal that I still loved my time with it to pieces. Also another game that I have to beat. I haven't beaten it yet, but I do heartily recommend it. It is a good time. Gravity Rush, it is a beloved classic. I actually didn't beat it this year, but I have played through it a couple times overall, so I know how the game goes. I love it to pieces. It has so much charm with like Kat and the way that she interacts with the man from the police, I think. Is that what part? Oh god, I can't remember. It's very heartfelt. It's a little rough around the edges. I've heard that Gravity Rush 2 is an improvement in like every single way over 1, but 1 is still a really fun game. And if you don't get motion sick with its mechanic of constantly flipping and blah with the camera as your main means of movement, if you don't mind that, I think there's a lot to love in Gravity Rush. I love it to pieces. It'll always be one of my absolute favorite PlayStation games. It's my #1 favorite Vita game out of like the 5 games on Vita. And yeah, I recommend it a lot. I really want to play the sequel. I need to. That's gonna be one of my goals this year. I want to play Gravity Rush 2. Hades, easy S tier. Don't love it as much as either. Oh, hey, also I didn't talk about Breath of the Wild. Hey, Hades, fuck off. D tier for interrupting me. I should probably talk about this. I had an idea for a fitness stream. Sorry, Bader, I'm really late on replying to this. I read your comment. I'm so bad about that. I swear to God, I usually read like a majority of comments. I just get so distracted by myself that I just end up forgetting to reply to things. Workout with viewers live streams are a thing that I wanted to do, and specifically what I was playtesting before I got my hands on Ring Fit was I want to do a master mode playthrough where anytime I'm like climbing up a wall, right? Or like a cliff that's like more than a second, what I want to do is like, it's fitness stream. Whereas we do squats for the duration of climbing up the cliff. Anytime I die, I have to do like a set amount of like push-ups and sit-ups and maybe even like, now that I have a cardio bike, right? Now that I have this Big Bertha, maybe incorporating that some way. Maybe anytime I'm riding the horse or something, right? Like ways to tie in cardio and like working out to Breath of the Wild and playing on master mode so that there's a higher chance of me dying and getting those punishments. Yeah, I think it could be a lot of fun. So that is on the plate for this year. I still want to do it. But what happened is I was playtesting it because I kind of wanted to see, based on my own skill, like what a typical stream would be like, how long I should like plan on doing it for before I get super winded. And then what happened was I just started playing Breath of the Wild for like 40 hours. I was just like, holy shit, I fucking love Breath of the Wild. What if I'm rolling down a cliff? Then I right there on that space, I gotta keep somersaulting. All right, that's the only way. All right, however many times Link tussles and dosey-dos with flips in the air. I'm calling it now. I'll break my neck for stream. I will. You can quote me on that. But yeah, I was playtesting for the stream and then I just started playing Breath of the Wild and I was like, holy shit. I stopped my first playthrough Breath of the Wild, like I beat it. I did a majority of the content. I didn't beat every shrine, but I think I got like 110 shrines. You know, I saw the creds roll and stuff and I loved my time, but I was kind of in the mindset of like, I kind of got tired of it by the end. There's like a lot of power creep and stuff. And it led me to forget just how fucking incredible the first like 80 hours of Breath of the Wild is. It is a goddamn masterpiece in every sense when it comes to that. And while there comes the point, right? You reach that threshold where you're just like drowning in the top tier weapons and you have like 100 of every arrow type and you have like the top tier crafted potions and buffing items where like there's no difficulty whatsoever, right? That just completely gets thrown out the window. You fight a gold Lionel and you're like yawning because there's no threat. It's just taking a while because he's a damage sponge, right? There reaches that point where it becomes a little bit less engaging than the first half. But man, if the first 80 hours of a video game is like 10 out of 10, I feel like that's a pretty good sign it's a good game. It reminded me I loved it so much because I started doing this right when I started playing Genshin too. And for anybody who says that Genshin is just like a clone of Breath of the Wild, first off, you're doing yourself a disservice. These games hit wildly different areas. They do wildly different things. Literally, the only thing they have in common is that they're both open world, exploration heavy games, and you can climb on surfaces. That is it. They're cell shaded. Okay, 3 things. It was a great reminder of like how fucking incredible Link's moveset is. The fact that like, kind of like Ghost of Tsushima, but even I would say like 100 times more so the case for Breath of the Wild. The fact that you can accomplish anything, where whatever you want to do in combat is only limited by your creativity and your own mechanical inputs, is the fact that the skill ceiling is quite literally infinitely high on Breath of the Wild, was such a cool thing to see in motion again. It was such a great reminder. I think I can now easily say that Breath of the Wild is my favorite Zelda game. It used to be Majora's Mask. Majora's Mask was #1, and I still love it to pieces. I mean, that and Wind Waker, it was always going back and forth between the two on like which one I loved slightly more than the other. All Zeldas are good in their own ways. They all accomplish different things, and I think that's equally valid. But like for me as a boy, Breath of the Wild is it is such a step above in so many ways that I personally look for in a game. I think the one thing too, hey, on God, I'm just gonna get this out here right now. Anybody who's like, oh, Breath of the Wild, bad video game because durability system sucks. You're a baby? You're a little baby boy. You're objectively a bad human being? Fuck out of here with that jargon. Durability system is fine. You know how long weapons last once you reach like 20 hours in, you're getting like that decent ones? It's you know how much the game drowns you with like a million different options at any one point where you don't just have to rely on swinging your sword when you have like all of your Sheikah Slate stuff and your bows and goddamn like even your equipment with like dropping shoe jellies and making bombs. I think if you don't like the durability system, you're just a bad gamer. Yeah, I'll say it. I think you suck as a person. Ventar, you think the durability system sucks? I think you suck. I think your mom sucked my dick last night. That's what I think. Fine, got him. Just not fun? You're not fun, Hammer. Yeah. What do you think about that, brother? I think if anything, the one thing that would have been neat to see, I don't think it's necessary, but I think it would have been a cool addition, is imagine if there was a way, maybe even like super late on, right? Maybe you have to beat all the divine beasts before you unlock it, or like whatever the case is, right? So you do a side quest and then you unlock this. Imagine if there was a repair system, but every time you repaired the weapon, the cap on its durability decreased over time. So it would extend the longevity of weapons, but like it would reach a point where you still would just have to toss it, or it'd get, you know, super annoying to keep the upkeep of. I'd be okay with that. Not necessary though. It's fine. No thoughts allowed. I'm a dictator, Ventar. No thoughts allowed that deviate from my own. I'm like America. All right, I'm gonna fucking get your ass. All right, you're trying to stand up for basic human rights. I say durability system is fine. You hussy. And I know I'm a dissenting opinion. I know I'm in the minority, and I understand that. That actually is fine. On a real note, I get that I'm basically alone on this. I don't even care that there's not a bar. I actually like that aspect of it because it feels very immersive. Like you reach that point where you get that like game sense of when you know a weapon's about to break, and then it's really satisfying when you're playing around that and you're just like instinctively tossing the weapon and getting the bonus damage from it like breaking all the enemy and stuff. I like that aspect to it. I get I'm alone on it, but I love that. I would be fine if Breath of the Wild 2 had a copy paste durability system. I'm fine with it. I will die on this hill. I will carry the burden of this torch that is objectively correct. It is like other Zeldas, is the thing. It's like the closest sequel that Zelda 1 has ever had. It is like other Zeldas. It's not like other 3D Zeldas. And that's fair. Hey, if like Ocarina of Time is your favorite game and you just want another Ocarina of Time, you're not gonna get it from Breath of the Wild, and that's fair to not enjoy that. But I think as its own thing, it does everything that I could ask for and then some. I love it to pieces. I will always stick up for Breath of the Wild. It's my homie. It's my G. Dungeons are better. See, that's the thing too. I don't know. The thing with like dungeons in other Zeldas is that like when you do them once, it's a really cool and engaging time, right? Because you're like new to it. But almost every dungeon in like every mainline Zelda game, it really only has like one path through. There's hardly ever any deviation from like what you're supposed to do. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like linear experiences have a place. There's a lot of great stuff that can come from being very linear because you can craft like very specific experiences around that. And that's why I think like first playthroughs of Zelda dungeons are fantastic. Like Twilight Princess by far has my favorite set of dungeons because I think the first playthrough of Twilight Princess is something like super special. First time you're going through like Arbiter's Ground and you get the spinner, then you're fucking going around the rails and you're doing the Poe ghosts like goddamn Force Temple from Ocarina of Time, but like even in a cooler fashion, you're dropping the chandelier and using that to do the timed platforming based on the length that you pull the chain back. There's a lot of really amazing moments, but then it's like once you do them once, it's like, you know, I'm not going to get anything additional out of it. Whereas I like the direction that the divine beasts and the shrines of Breath of the Wild have because again, it's like there's 99% of the time, unless it's one of the dumb combat trial shrines, which is one big peeve I do have that. I hate how many combat shrines there are in Breath of the Wild. I wish there weren't nearly as many. Every time after you do like 3 of them, if you've had your fill, it just becomes a chore. I don't like those at all. That is one of the biggest like points of complaint. I wish there were just more cool puzzle shrines, right? But the fact that like there's like a million different ways to tackle even the divine beasts, right? You can do things so out of order, and the fact that all of them are based around the actual physicality of the beast itself, and that you're like directly altering that physicality to solve puzzles and like spatially put together the order of events that you need to do to activate the 5 tablets, and you can do them all in any order. I love that aspect to it because that gives replayability. It's such a cool and organic way to tackle dungeon making, and it's something that I hope in Breath of the Wild 2 they step up, right? Maybe we get a couple more instead of just like a base 4, because I loved the 4 that we got in Breath of the Wild. Maybe they do more to differentiate them like physically, because I do agree that I wish that each of the divine beasts had more like aesthetically to differentiate themselves, because it kind of becomes like Link to the Past, where like if you show me a picture of one of the dungeons, I'll be like, that's probably one of the 8. They all look the exact same. And I don't love that aspect to them, right? But the actual like mechanics of playing through them, amazing. I love the Divine Beasts. There's a lot that people will criticize about Breath of the Wild, and I totally get those criticisms, but I feel like a majority of those complaints about Breath of the Wild are things that I love about it. Anyway, Journey. It's always been one of my favorite games of all time. It used to be my number one, and it's kind of gone down over the years because there's only so much you can get out of Journey, right? But I'll never forget the emotional impact it had on me playing through for the first time. I still play it a couple times on a yearly basis. I just did last December was when I played through again, and it still fucking hit me like a truck. I was crying like a little baby. James was in the living room. He actually watched me play through it all. I had a really cute companion. Journey will just always be the mainstay. It'll always be the game. It's like my emotional comfort food. Whenever I'm feeling like down or whatever, Journey will always be there to like prop me up. Very good game if you haven't played it. It's like 2 hours long and one of the most emotionally impactful experiences you can have in your life. It's a little bit of a walking simulator, but there's also really fun movement. There's incredibly implemented drop-in multiplayer that hasn't really been replicated, I guess, since DMC5. It's a masterpiece through and through. Not a lot of replay value unless you just love it as much as I do, and I can concede that, but for what it is, and especially for the price, it's not that expensive. I think it's like 10 bucks. Easily worth the price of admission, cannot recommend enough. Everybody should experience Journey once. Strongly believe that. Strongly believe that. Last Guardian, it's hard, man. I would almost, from a gameplay perspective, I would actually put Last Guardian in C, but it's not really about the gameplay. Like, Last Guardian is like, it's about the full experience. And while the full experience is filled with a lot of really, really shitty camera moments of like enclosed indoor areas that were not properly designed around this very shitty camera, and while sometimes manipulating Trico can be like fucking playing Sonic in Smash Ultimate, just not fun. Just not fun. It's also packed with so many insanely unforgettable experiences that only this game could accomplish. And the way that the ending is one of the most beautiful, and I would even say tragic, endings I've ever experienced in my life. The second I start thinking about Last Guardian, the second I start thinking about like him protecting the boy from like the arrows, or like all the times you're fucking skydive, then he catches you by the nip of your neck, and the way it soars at the climb with the tower. Fuck. Yeah, Hades is still in D tier where it belongs. I will not probably replay Last Guardian the way that I replay Shadow of the Colossus. I still want to though, because it made enough of an impact that I still really loved my time with it. I'll put it, top of A? Oh, the camera. I think I gotta go top of A. It is definitely the biggest divide between like quality of gameplay, but then overall package. I gotta go top A. It's the only place I can put it. I gotta. The overall, it's too strong overall for me to put it any lower. Hades. Oops. There we go. Now that's a little bit more fitting. Am I right or am I left, boys? No, of course I'm not. All right. Oh wait, did that just take Hades? Oh no, it just took Hades out from the list. Oh well, okay. I guess Hades never happened. Boys, I'm sorry. All my memories of like playing this top tier absolute masterpiece in the roguelite genre are oh shit, they're disappearing on the spot. Oh fuck. It never happened. All right, man. If only I could. Man, I've been thinking about playing this like neat roguelite game. It looks a little overrated if I'm being real. Like everybody's been talking about it. The main dude looks really hot, and that's cool, but like, I don't know, I'll get around to it eventually, but like, whatever. I'm sure it won't like blow my mind and give me like 100+ hours of like insanely satisfying, ever-changing and evolving gameplay that scales beautifully as a masterclass in like non-linear storytelling. Nah, ew, yucky. I'm sure Darren Korb won't blow me away by not only producing one of the dopest soundtracks of last gen, but like also giving us one of the most like down-to-earth character performances we've we've seen from really any game, regardless of genre. Nah, never happened. Hey, last story though? Ew, yuck. Bro, you can put an orange down and people die from that. You commit war crimes on the daily. Imagine playing a game where you commit war crimes. Imagine like murdering men from oranges on a daily basis. No, I love Last Story right now. We need to play more of it. I am going to be resuming the playthrough because we're still not that deep into it. I think we're deep enough. I have an opinion on it, but I'm sure there's going to be more presented to me that's going to make me like really love it. It scratches that itch. I just have a soft spot for like the vibes and the aesthetics of like early PS2, mid PS2, which also Xenoblade I think is a part of. Last Story visually is a part of, and also kind of mechanically, like it's a very wonky game, right? The camera's not that great. Character animations are very like stiff and kind of weird, but god damn it, man, there's such a good charm to Last Story, and I think it's only going to improve as we see more of it. I've already been blown away by the soundtrack. I love the gameplay mechanics. I also am a huge sucker for games that have a bunch of different mechanics that are all kind of like shoved into one another. I feel like that's a very common thread with me and like what I enjoy from games. And The Last Story has that in spades. Action, but also tactical, turn-based in the sense you give like party members commands, but then also like cooldown based, cover, shooting, third person shooter game. It's the kind of combination that only works for the game. Like I don't think any other game could pull off the combo that Last Story has going for it, and I think it's a really solid combo. I can't wait to see more of it. But yeah, Doggo, the actual reality, Hades is my S tier. I don't want to redo the tier list. So just imagine that Hades is right above Bloodborne, actually. Below Sekiro, above Bloodborne. Easy top 5, I guess top 4. It's incredible. Everybody owes it to themselves to experience Hades. Because I remember I was watching it and I was thinking to myself, like, I don't get the hype. It's just like this little man in an isometric game. I mean, it's super giant, so of course it's gonna be fun. How's it a masterpiece? He's just like, you dash, and then you swing sword, or you shoot bow, and then maybe you like throw grenade, and then you dash, and then you swing sword again, and then you rinse and repeat that for 20 minutes until you get your ass cleaved in by fucking Asterius, or whatever. Or Hades himself, right? I did get the hype, and I don't think anybody does get the hype until it is in their own hands. And then you see the brilliant storytelling that's like done at your own pace depending on how good or bad you are at the game, until you like viscerally feel the way that abilities and boons chain together and like truly give you hundreds if not thousands of different ways to play the game. It's one of those, it's like trying to explain the color red. I don't think anybody gets Hades until they play Hades. And so I think everybody owes it to themselves to play it, because if you do, I think anybody can be won over by it. You don't have to be a god tier gamer. As you play more, the game gets exponentially easier. Like anybody, and there's a godhood mode too, where like you take 20% less damage, and then every time you die, you reduce damage by an additional 2% for every death, up to like 80%, I think. Which makes it very easy. So it is very accessible. Anybody can play it. And if anybody does, I think you will be won over by how much of it. There's a reason why it won like 1 million Game of the Year rewards, right? As an indie studio, like what, 10-person team, if that, there is a reason why it fucking got accolades and then some. It deserves all the hype and then some. Mario Kart is very mid for me. It's a fun time. Like, it is a great time waster when you got party. It's not my go-to. Like Smash Ultimate, if we're gonna go there, it's an S tier game. Offline sucks, but it's so mechanically fun. I've literally spent like 1,300 hours in that game, and there's no way it can't be an S tier because of it. It has its issues. There was some complexity lost from Smash 4 that I really miss, especially like a lot of characters' utility and jabs, which is completely wasted away, which gets me so sad. I look back at Smash 4 DDD, and you could do like jab to imagination, or like Marthena with their jab to imagination. Oh god, I miss that so much. But overall, it's such a blast to play, especially offline. Is like, god, it's like pinnacle fighting game. I'll probably sink another 1,300 hours into it before I bite the dust. I wish that everybody had like really cool guaranteed things out of jab the way that Smash 4 did. That's like my one thing I miss so much. But then you play it, and then you like realize you can't dash dance at all, or you're stuck in like a 2-second turnaround animation. You see DDD, who moves like a stage length every 10 years, fucking through molasses. Right, his jump squat, that's like 14 frames or something insane. While Fox has like a 2-frame jump squat, or like a 3-frame jump squat. There's a lot from Smash 4 I'm glad that didn't make its way to Ultimate, but there's still a lot I missed too. But despite that, it's still my favorite party game. Mario Kart, it's a fun time, but I don't know. I like a little less RNG in my party game made for children. Just a little less, right? A little dollop here and there is okay, but it'll never be my go-to. Monster Hunter Iceborne, another fucking S-tier experience. I would actually even, feel bad doing this, but I would actually put it above DMC5 because I'm just a huge Monster Hunter stan. Can't wait for Rise. I'm so excited for it. Iceborne, at least for me, I know a lot of people had some issues with like Clutch Claw, claiming that it's like required to do anything in Iceborne. I strongly disagree. You don't have to Clutch Claw if you don't want to. It is rewarded if you do, but you don't need to. It's still fun anyway as a mechanic. I do it because I enjoy the process of clutch clawing. The new monsters, hype as hell, especially the flagship boy. I can't remember his name, but like the ice dragon dude. One of the most fun fights in that game. The climactic boss fight. I also can't remember his name, but he's like rock Xenojiva, more or less, with like wind attacks. One of the coolest, most jaw-dropping moments I've had in my life, when you beat phase 1 and then the rock armor drops and then he's like this fucking creepy, cryptid, skinless wind monster. Oh, dude. Iceborne's such a delight. I think I suck another like 300 hours in the Monster Hunter world when I already had like 600 or something from the base game. One of the best expansions I've experienced to date, honestly only trumped by Torna. I think Torna is the only expansion that in my mind's eye like is just more of like an impactful experience, but Iceborne, phenomenal. And it's still, even when Rise comes out, I think Iceborne is still going to be worth going back to and playing, especially if they like actually unlock all the event quests. You can like just get everything from the events. The new Bagel Goose, oh my god, it's fucking Monster Hunter, so much fun, god damn it. Muse Dash is a really fun time. Actually, I'm gonna put Muse Dash B tier. Yeah, rhythm games aren't for everybody. It's a really fun one though. It's very fluid. The charts are very engaging. Some of them are fucking batshit hog wild in all the best ways. It's very simple. It's basically like a 2-button rhythm game. You have like a top lane and you have a bottom lane, and that's it really. But it's super fluidly animated. Let me see if I can pull it out. It's also dirt cheap. Base game, 50 cents. You know, we'll play it. A little loud. Yeah, it's like 50 cents and a ton of content for like what it is. Look at this art style, man. It's filled with cute girls. Look at her. The blue-haired one's the best one, by the way. Look at this, man. It's so over the top. It's so charming. I love it to pieces. If you just want like a little time waster, if you want a little rhythm game that costs literally less than like a McDouble, that can give you plenty of time of just like insanely hype and tight rhythm gameplay, man, look no further, man. Fantastic time. Loved it to pieces. We'll play more, but I'm too busy playing Genshin Impact and losing my mind over my lack of primos to get Shao. You know how it is. Ni no Kuni. I remember when I first played Ni no Kuni, I was so blown away. I was so hyped because it was level 5 RPG. I'm a huge Darklet 2 stan who a level 5 also made. And on top of that, like Studio Ghibli animatics, on top of like character designs, monster designs from like lead art director at Ghibli. Blend between turn-based and action combat, which got me really hyped. Creature collecting, like Pokemon, raising monsters that you find out in the field to assist you in battle. It has a lot of really cool things going for it that I think unfortunately haven't aged the best. When I played through it for the first time, I fucking loved it. Ni no Kuni was an S tier for me. Playing it again, found myself gameplay-wise not loving it as much as I remembered, but story-wise, it is, especially if you compare it to Ni no Kuni 2, which I've also played, story-wise, it is a leap and above the sequel. It still holds up. It is one of the most emotionally heartfelt and like charming RPG stories on the market. It's not anything like too crazy dark or deep or complex. I guess it's more like junk food in a way, because it's also level 5, and like, let's be real, I feel like level 5 is not known for like pinnacle of, you know, storytelling. They're more like the junk food of RPG developers, but it gets the job done, and there's still some genuinely tear-jerking moments, especially in the beginning. This game is like the Up of JRPGs. The beginning of the game will stick with you for the rest of time, and maybe the rest of it might fade away, and you might not, even having played this a year ago, not like really remember what happens after like the 5th hour unfortunately, but man, that intro sticks around, and it's still enjoyable enough, I think, to warrant bottom of A. Could potentially be in B. But I think there's enough merits that I think I could recommend it to most people. Origami King, I really enjoyed, actually. You know, a lot of folks are really anti-new Paper Mario for good reason, because Sticker Star is an abomination. Color Splash has great writing, but like, it's super boring actual gameplay. I think Origami King is actually very fun to play. I think the battle system of, you know, like rotating enemies to line them up for perfect patterns actually becomes really difficult pretty early on. Like, it ramps up and it really gets you thinking. Your gears turning. And it got to the point where I never really found myself at a moment where I would try to avoid enemy battles, because there's actually a really strong currency. Like, coins are very useful in that game, and even though there's no experience, you do get rewarded with a lot of coins for like fighting everything that you come across, and they go towards like very tangible rewards and things that I really appreciate. So actually, I was constantly engaged by the battle system, even though it never really changes a lot. You know, like with the base set of mechanics, they do enough with the patterns themselves that I think it's good. It's also the only time a Paper Mario game has actually made me sob. Like, I can get teary-eyed with like Tippy and Count Black and Super Paper Mario, right? I think Super Paper Mario overall has like the better cohesive story as a package. Also, I think like gameplay-wise, I just prefer Super Paper Mario with like platforming as opposed to Origami King. Holy shit, if you know, you know though, right? If you know when I say I sobbed to Origami King, physical tears that I wasn't ready for, if you know, you know. I was not prepared to experience that from a Paper Mario game, of all things. And the fact that it is, and it's like done very well, in like a way that's, I think, pretty clearly communicated and like hinted at, but in a way too where you're like, what? Are they actually? And then they do? I don't know, you couple that with like a poppin' soundtrack and really, really cool creative boss fights that totally flip the formula on its head, and like in a way that got me actively looking forward to each one of them, because they brought something crazily different to the party. I don't know, I loved Origami King. I can't recommend it enough. I think it's not like, I don't think it's like a masterpiece in any way, so I think I'm gonna keep it in B. But I think it's a great game. I think it's a solid like 8 out of 10. 7.5 out of 10 maybe if you really are salty that you're not getting turn-based RPG stuff, but like, if you can look past that and just like treat Paper Mario Origami King as its own thing, I think you will fucking love it. Pathless is an atmospheric exploration-heavy game, kind of like Zelda in a way. You have a very limited moveset. You literally just have a sprint, a double jump, and then you're an archer, and so you have a bow that automatically locks onto nearby targets. And the core gameplay is like, you're running around and there are a bunch of these like talisman things, and when you shoot them with your bow, you get this huge speed boost. And the game's just kind of about like moving at like a breakneck speed and exploring these dilapidated ruins and purging the land from this like big evil that's threatening to take it over. And as you go through it, you're rewarded with additional like double jumps, and that's it, because you don't get any other mechanics. Basically what you start with at the game is what you end with. You just have more jumps for like more verticality, but like that's it. It's a very simple game, executed flawlessly. It's got really great sound design. It uses the haptic triggers. I have it on PS5, and it feels like you're drawing a bow when you go to take your shots with it. And I think that aspect is really cool. Is it just PS4, PS5? Oh, it must be. Shame. It's also really good about like communicating a relationship between two characters without having to like verbally do a lot of dialogue and stuff. It's all like physical acting. You play as this girl archer, and she has this hawk companion, and they are like the cutest thing together. They'll snuggle up with one another, and like if the hawk gets corrupted by the dark goop stuff, you like wash the bird, and then they'll like rub their noggins together. It's so heartwarming. I liked it a lot. It's not very long, and that's good. I don't think it ever really overstays its welcome, and it has these crazy cool like set pieces, which are the boss fights. There's like 5 big boss fights, and they're all insane. They're all really cool. So if you want like a really concise package of a game, doesn't overstay its welcome, does some really neat things, and just feels good to play and move around in, you're in for a good time with Pathless. God, I have so many 8. I feel I really just made a point to play games I just like, you know? I might have to move some B boys down to C. You know, as a matter of fact, I will even just like, I'll just do this, right? Even Mario Kart's like kind of whatever. Rune Factory 4. Ooh, actually, it might be S. I fucking adore Rune Factory 4. I have the special, there was a remake for Switch that came out last year. James has this version. I watched him play it, and then I already had the 3DS version, the original version. That's what I played. I just couldn't find a logo for Rune Factory 4 3DS. Which, hey, side note, if you're one of the schmucks who's uploading images to PNG databases, but you're putting in the fake checkerboard background, you're like uploading it as a JPEG, but it has like the fake checkerboard. So you click on it in Google search images thinking that's going to be the transparent logo, but then it's just a full background anyway. You are one step away from reaching the absolute like pits, the absolute goddamn fucking dredges of like boys who leave shopping carts in parking lots, or anyone who fucking mains Sonic online in Smash Ultimate. Fucking, you're going to hell. You've committed war crimes that will receive no forgiveness. All right, I labored, I slaved over my Google searches for a full 5 minutes trying to find the Rune Factory 4 logo, PNG transparent, every single one of them with the fake checkerboard background, and I was losing my mind. Yeah, me, St. Peter, all right, when I bite the dust, I didn't skip over Pathless. We just talked about Pathless for like 20 minutes. Me and St. Peter are gonna gang up. We're gonna round up all the goddamn fake PNG uploaders, and we're gonna have them all duel to the death. What's that? They've already died? Good. Fucking make them experience it again, all right? And then like put them in with like all the conservatives in hell. Please God, please God. Ooh. Dude, I went to the grocery store today. I was hungry. I just wanted like a latte from the Starbucks that's in the store. And I had such a goddamn juicer. I had a juicer of a parking spot. I was sliding in. I was about to do it when I noticed, oh fuck, there's a shopping cart right in the goddamn middle. It was like front row, dude. I was gonna be able to pull in so I could just like pull out. Didn't even have to back out, right? I was gonna be able to. But then there was like goddamn shopping cart that wasn't even like facing in a way where I could just kind of like nudge it with my car and like push it up. No, it was fucking sideways. So it would have fucking when I like run into it and get all sideways, even potentially like dented or like made a mark on the front of my car. So then I couldn't do it, and then I had to get out and then physically move the cart. And the whole time I was so I was ready to fucking toss hands. There was this like old lady in a truck who was watching me as I was doing this, and I remember I glared at her. I was like, you better not be one of those people. I know it's always the old ones. It's always the old folk who leave the cart. So like, oh, I'm just giving. I'm like somebody at a hospital who spills a big juice cup, and then when the janitor goes to clean it up, they're like, I'm keeping you employed, brother. Am I right or am I left? No. Hey, fuck you, dude. Anyway, Rune Factory 4 is very good. Tales of Berseria is pretty mid. It actually has a very good story. Tales of is very, very bad about like littering its levels with oodles of invisible walls. And I can be okay with it in like something like Zestiria or Symphonia, where like every level's flat anyway, and it's pretty like just walk from point A to point B. Not a lot of backtracking, not a lot of like involved navigating of levels. But Berseria does this thing, man. It does this thing where like there's actually a decent amount, there's like a lot of cliffs that oversee lower parts of levels in Berseria, and like in the first like 12 hours, I played it for 12 hours. There's a lot of like, you go to point A in a town, and then you have to go back a couple areas to like a cave at point B, and then you have to go back to the town at point A, but like to do that, you have to like weave around these levels that aren't intuitive at all to like walk around in, and there's no like fun movement or anything, so you can't even like enjoy that process. There's no collectibles to give you like micro objectives as you're going from point A to point B. And there's like so many moments where I just get so fucking annoyed when I can very clearly just, if I wanted to, I could just run off the cliff in like Xenoblade, right? This like 6-foot high cliff. I would be able to just run off that, jump off it in Xenoblade, and then I'd just be immediately where I need to be. Whereas in Berseria, you have to like take the long way because there's no way to actually go around it. And that just annoys me, man. Berseria is like another one of those games. I think it's genuinely a really great game. I can easily see why everybody says it's one of like the best entries in Tales of. I think I've just come to realize that, like, I don't know, I just don't vibe with Tales of. There's something about Tales of. It has a really strong intro, but then, like, it also, like, the prologue, I feel like it in Berseria, like, really drags on too in a way. Like, it doesn't take that long. I think it takes, like, maybe 2, maybe 3 hours, but it doesn't really get going till that last, like, 3rd hour, which I don't love. I feel like for an RPG especially, I need a little bit of a stronger opening, right? I need a bombing mission. I need the battle on Sword Valley. I need something to really hook me in, and it does eventually happen, and it's like a huge moment, but I don't know. That combined with, like, I just need fun movement. I need fun exploration. I need something that, like, keeps me immersed in the world and doesn't actively take me out of it every, like, half hour. And that's what Tales of Berseria does to me. So I think at some point I'd like to give it a try again. I put in 12, right? I can probably see it through, but I wish I liked it more than I do. I do. Because Ys 8 is kind of the antithesis in most ways. Ys 8 is kind of like la-di-da with its story. It doesn't really get going until like the final chapter of the game out of like 10 or 13. I can't remember how many there are. However, the core gameplay is so goddamn fun. The movement in Ys 8 is insane. It is fucking bonkers how fast you move. You get like this dodge roll that also doubles as like a really fast somersault thing that like fucking gets you zooming. Even your base sprint is like you handle almost like a car. You have to like drift around corners because you're going like so fast. Levels are these huge sprawling open affairs where you can find a bunch of different ways to get from like point A to point B, and you're rewarded for it because like there's a bunch of gameplay systems that are all intertwined and they all revolve around your exploration and like charting the map of this uninhabited island. There's some like big intrigue with like the origins of the island and how you got there in the first place, coupled with really fun action gameplay. Revolves around rewarding you for perfect parrying and perfect dodging through attacks. So you have this big sense of control. Like if you take damage, if you die in a fight, it is 100% your fault. And then it feels good when you start chaining those parries and becoming like this unstoppable fucking screen blasting boulder of a man. I don't know. Ys 8 is that game where like I can see it's very low budget in a lot of ways. The cutscenes are very unimpressive. The story as a whole is not like that good, if we're gonna be honest. Character writing's fun, but it's not really anything to write home about. But the gameplay is such like pure unadulterated fun for an action RPG that I can't help but fucking it like injected me with like a sense of, oh my god, if I ever make an RPG, I want it to feel like this game in a lot of ways. All right, Mystery Dungeon DX, very easy. If you played Mystery Dungeon 1, it's a very great remake of it. It has actually one of my favorite art styles on the Switch right now. It's like literally a moving watercolor painting, and I love that aspect to it. The only issue is like it's not optimized very well. Like it actually is kind of a laggy mess in a lot of spots in the game, which isn't the biggest deal because it is turn-based in a way. Like you're moving and it can feel like you're playing in real time, but every time you move a tile in Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, that counts as one turn, and enemies don't move until you move. That's like kind of the vibe. But still, you don't really play it that slow, and when you play it like how it's really meant to be played, it gets very laggy and sometimes leads to some frustrating scenarios where you like input things you don't mean to. It also, like, the story just straight up is not as good as Explorers. I feel like it resolves too suddenly, and I don't know, the antagonists in Pokemon Mystery Dungeon 1 are not like the most engaging, not very deep. They don't really need to be. It's like, it's a Pokemon game, right? It doesn't need to be that good. But when I have the frame of reference of like how good Explorers of Time is, which is still my favorite Pokemon game of all time, like base game or spin-off, DX is just kind of like, I don't know, you know? It was a little underwhelming to go back to, but it's still a really fun time. And especially if you have a lot of nostalgia for Blue Rescue Team, Red Rescue Team. It's a really faithful and a really good remake of it. It brings some pretty good quality of life stuff. I enjoyed my time with it. I mostly got into it because Chuck did his LP of it, and I don't regret it. I really don't. And I really, really don't regret our final entry, Sakura Dungeon. Boys, if you don't know what the Sakura line of games are, how do I put into words? Like, how do you put into words why the smell of a pool is so nostalgic and comforting? How do you explain the intrinsic response you feel, like the kind of like shot in anxiety or panicking you have when you hear a baby cry, right? That instinctual urge to provide care and support for this creature you might not even know, like, at all, right? It just triggers something deep within you. Sakura Dungeon. So yeah, for me, Sakura Dungeon is... it's something, man. How do you explain the impact that Gandhi had? How do you capture the magic of playing ball with your dad out in the park, not a care in the world, just looking forward to the weekend and being able to play Super Smash Bros. Melee with your boys, sleepover? Sakura Dungeon is, it is a video game. Man, Sakura Dungeon is a video game. There's boobs. There's like a lot of boobs in Sakura Dungeon. There's like 40 girls, and they all like that's like, right? Like, there's booba. There's just a lot of titty. How much have I played now? It's like a dungeon crawler, where like when your party, every party member is like a cute monster girl. Monster girls, that's hype. That's dope. And every time they take a crit, their clothes rip. And then if they take like a second crit in a row, playtime. Then it's just there's booba. And it's for this reason that Sakura Dungeon is easily one of the most groundbreaking games I've played in 2020. It's honestly, I think it's everything that developers should strive for when designing their games. There's a lot that, say, Breath of the Wild or Xenoblade Chronicles, Ys 8, Ghost of Tsushima could learn from Sakura Dungeon.